Hey, this is Matt Wall. I'm a site selection and location advisor with Sterling Properties Group based in Charlotte. So back to our series, Site Selection A to Z. Last week we talked about the letter D in demographics, which is a practically unlimited opportunity to nerd out on trade areas and evaluating market potential for your client. So today we're going to talk about a less nerdy topic and something way more dirty, and that's going to be environmental. So when you're looking at sites that have previously been developed, you want to consider what occurred on those sites in past history. If it was a former gas station or a former dry cleaning plant or a dump site or some other industrial or manufacturing use, you're going to want to get as much history as you can on that use and any potential contamination on that site for your client. You can ask the listing broker and the current owner about their knowledge of prior uses or any existing environmental contamination, but often their knowledge is going to be limited to what they knew when they bought the site. And you'll be on your own to figure out what levels of contamination might exist today. So if this is the case, and certainly before your client takes ownership, your client's going to want to get a qualified environmental engineering firm to what's commonly referred to as a Phase 1 ESA. That's Phase 1 Environmental Site Assessment. And if you plan to have a lender on the development project, your bank will absolutely require Phase 1 ESA be performed on the site. So this is a step that you will not want to skip. This analysis report identifies potential or existing environmental contamination liabilities for all parties involved. And again, you want this report done before your client closes on the property, because if you're in the chain of title of the property with a contaminated site, you could ultimately become responsible for the cost to clean up the site. And your client does not want any liability to clean up a site unless they've intentionally bought the site under some sort of brownfield agreement with the EPA, and that's something that I'm going to let you Google on your own. So back to getting a Phase 1 ESA. The outcomes of a Phase 1 could be that the site is clean, or the report may recommend what's called a Phase 2 report, which would involve further investigations or soil testings or other work to identify and quantify the environmental problem. If you find a site is contaminated, the Phase 2 reports will generally identify the issues and recommend ways to clean or remediate this site. Your buyer has the choice of walking away from the deal or putting the responsibility back on the seller to fix the problem. The main way to know a site has been adequately cleaned or remediated is for the EPA to issue a No Further Action Letter, or NFA Letter, that essentially closes the file on contamination. It's either no longer contaminated or the EPA is not requiring any additional efforts be made to address the problem, so your client should be in the clear. To summarize, the best site is a clean site, or one that has never had any prior uses that could cause contamination. A clear, clean Phase 1 ESA report will confirm that's the case. If there is some contamination, you'll probably need to move to a Phase 2 ESA and further identify and evaluate the contamination. It could still come back clean after this evaluation, but more than likely this Phase 2 will give you an idea of whether the site can be remediated and at what cost in terms of money and time this is going to take your client. And if the site needs to be remediated, it will be the issuance of the NFA letter that will provide to all parties that your client, as the buyer, will not be held responsible for any future liability associated with this contamination. Do not let your clients purchase a property without an environmental site assessment. And a pro tip, you will want to carefully read the NFA and get professional guidance on it before closing if it's supplied by the seller. I've worked on sites that had an NFA based on a contamination on a particular part of a site, say like the rear of a site, but our lender required we do additional testing on the front of the site where our building was planning to sit, and this inevitably delayed our closing. So sites with the history of contamination are risky for everyone involved and may take extra time to evaluate and sort out. So make sure if you think there's some possibility of environmental issues that you address this in your timelines of your purchase contract. So that's E for environmental. And I appreciate you watching this series, Site Selection A to Z. I hope it's helpful. Please share your thoughts on the topic and let me know if I can ever help you with this topic of site selection. Again, this is Matt Wall with Sterling Properties Group signing out. Thank you.